Go
Are we
live,
good?
go live. You're live.
Awesome.
Woo!
I think I still have 2 minutes.
Okay.
Can you sit here and wait? Maybe
We're
we should
just
move
gonna wait until
sit
it's time
closer.
to start, right?
It's better, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. Wait,
How do you see when people are
like this.
Oh,
There.
okay. So you are number 1,
Okay.
right? Number 1.
Maybe.
Oh, 2. There you go.
Okay, it's still not 7, so we're just gonna give it a few more minutes.
Okay. I'm
But
excited.
let's see. So if you can hear us, please type something in the chat box to let us know that you can hear us. Can you guys hear us? Hello, hello.
I don't think so.
Can you hear us? Oh, yay! Okay, Susie
Hi,
says she can hear
Susie.
us. Fantastic, fantastic.
How are you? Oh, I think there's a delay. Okay.
Whoop, whoop.
Awesome.
Okay, great. Well, we still have a few minutes.
Yeah.
So, how are you doing, Ines? Are you ready?
I'm super relaxed. Yeah.
I love your lipstick.
Thank you. It's called Mr. Lover. not a joke.
Oh, fantastic.
You can buy that Sephora, by the way, just for your information.
Oh yeah, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, few more minutes, almost there. Fantastic. So, in the meantime, we are in a spa hotel with Ines, relaxing and chilling and getting massages and hydrating. And because we have this lovely curtain behind us,
Yeah.
perfect
We're not at the
backdrop.
theater, although our lives could resemble
I mean,
that.
I'm not dressed for a theater, but she's definitely
Yes.
dressed for the occasion. All right, almost there. In the meantime, if you guys want us to talk about any topic, you want to ask any questions, use the chat box. Then we're just gonna give it 1 or 2 minutes more.
Okay.
We'll get there. This is fun. I'm doing YouTube live for the first time. I feel like a celebrity. This is fun.
You're a star, babes. You're a star.
This is when we're gonna start going through our Twitter feed, and it's like, oh, okay, I must
I don't have
react to
Twitter
that.
though, but that's fine.
Me neither, but I think it's a celebrity Twitter reading or whatever
I
it
don't
is.
have that much thoughts to share.
What?
No,
We are
not on Twitter. Not on Twitter.
Okay.
I write essays and courses.
But
too much
you
characters for
can't
Twitter.
limit thoughts to 140 characters.
No, but nobody. Yeah, okay. No, true. Fair enough.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna give this 1 more minute, just in case people are a little bit late. Fashionably late.
As always.
Oh yeah.
Or Latin late.
Latin late, they're gonna try to tune in at 8:30. By the time we're gone. That's fine. That's fine. Okay. 1 more minute or less than a minute. I'm looking at, okay, so it's 01. I think we should just start and then people are gonna join in at some point. What do you think?
Good.
Just in case. So we don't want to keep you guys waiting. All right. There's only a few viewers at the moment.
That's cool.
Yeah. Who's the other one? Can you introduce yourself if you can hear us?
Hi.
We want to know who you are.
Where you're from. We are coming live from Lake Balaton.
Yes.
Yeah, Lake Balaton in Hungary. And we are very curious to learn where you guys are joining us from.
Yeah, just to...
Faraway lands, for instance.
Yeah. Just to make it more exciting for all of us to know who's joining in. But anyway, I'm going to start with the introduction. So just in case anyone is listening who doesn't know either of us, then my name in Hungarian is Fanni Bartanix, but in English, please call me Stephanie. And I'm a life coach / traveler, backpacker, and I don't know, lifestyle designer, something like that. And
life architect.
Life architect. I like that. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah.
And
You're
would you
welcome.
want to introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Ines Gaston. I'm Belgium, but I'm also Spanish Algerian, so I'm a little bit of a lot. I currently live in Amsterdam. I'm a psychologist and I work as a coach for entrepreneurs and creatives, and I help them move forward and help them with their inner blocks so they can become very successful. That is my mission and my job. And I am here with my dear friend Stephanie because we are reunited here at lovely Lake Balaton for a wellness day because it's not yet weekend. And we met. Do you want to share how we met?
Oh, I want to start by joining, please. So we were backpacking and we spent about a year in Latin America, and we happened to meet in Colombia.
Yeah.
And long story short, we ended up in the same hostel room. And I think we kind of felt the vibe that there is a friendship in between us. And then we met up in a different city, and it turned out that it was so easy to talk to Ines, and I opened my heart and she helped me a lot. And we basically started self-development. I mean, at least my self-development. You were a major contributor in that for sure.
Thank you.
And she's been supporting me ever since. And trust me, guys, I do need help. So we all do. And I do need this community around me that also show mirrors, so I can look in the mirror and judge myself and see where I need to improve more. And one of those mirrors is Ines, and I'm very thankful for that.
You're welcome.
And I think we can kick it off by why is this so important
Yes.
to surround ourselves with a healthy environment and positivity. You want to share some thoughts?
Well, I think that the reason why we're doing this YouTube live, I guess it is just to, we both are in the self-development area, very active, each of us in their own ways. And we get a lot of questions. And we thought it would be so much fun to just go live, invite everybody who's interested. And if you guys would have any questions in regards to coaching or traveling or burnout or whatever, just drop them in the chat box and we'll be happy to help you. We're here today to give you the opportunity to pick our brains with our experiences and to learn from each other, that way to move forward. So that's basically why we are here. And to jump into the topic that Fanny touched upon just now is that having a community around you is very important, because there's a saying that says you become the average of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. And it's very important that, as from my perspective, because I coach entrepreneurs, as an entrepreneur, is that you surround yourself with people who push you forward, who inspire you. We work a lot with mastermind groups, for instance, and they're very useful. And communities is something that you build, and depending on which phase you are in your life, it's very important. Does that mean that you need to break up with all your friends and move away from your family? Not at all. But it is important that you become aware of your own strengths and the things that you might need, and go out there and get them and get the support and create that environment that actually enables you to reach your goals.
Really wise words, because I actually remember how difficult it was to deconstruct an old system. Because I think that development is always about improving, moving forward. It's not a static thing when I surround myself with certain people and they stay in my life for the rest of my life, because everything else around us evolves. So do we, and so does our environment. And I get to choose who I hang out with. And at some point I realized, I looked around, and as you said, I was the average of the top 5 people I surrounded myself with, and I saw a lot of negativity and complaining. And then I realized I am that person, because I am the average, and I was just as a negative person and a complainer. So I thought, okay, who do I have in my immediate environment that I can look up to, who I would like to learn from or become? And I did find some very good examples, and I started watching the way they speak, the way they interact with people, the way they think. And I thought, okay, this is going to take me forever to get there, but I want to be there. And I started going out networking and just watching people, how they behave with each other and with themselves, and the communication that they have towards themselves. And I realized it's so much more positive than what I have. And I constantly was blaming my environment, looking for excuses, and I victimized myself in my own life. I didn't take responsibility. And that was one of the major shifts that I did, is I took responsibility for everything that I created around me. And knowing that I have control, it gave me the power to change, because I thought, okay, I do have this negativity around me, but I possess the power to change it. And it did cost me some old friendships, but it wasn't an intentional, conscious decision to leave some people behind. But as I was evolving, I realized that they don't really provide enough value. And I felt that it was a bad business, if I can say that it was a lot of investment from my side, and I didn't get enough in return. So I thought, I'm investing, and there's no businessman in their right mind who invests without getting anything in return. And I know we're not supposed to have expectations, but I'm not going to invest in something that doesn't give me value back. So that was the first step that I took in realizing that there are some people around me who I can't really call as friends anymore, because they just didn't provide the energy or the positivity that I needed to go on.
Okay, so I have a question in regards to that. So assuming, that environment, the community that you surround yourself with is very important in order to move forward, that leads us also to the topic that intention is really important. So in your case, what was the fact that drove you? What was your intention, and where did you then see the gaps and decide to move away from your previous environment and then create something new? Because I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah. And so the intention was to improve my life, because I realized that the person I am attracts certain things. And if I don't have let's say high enough vibrations, I don't have enough strength or positivity, I'm not attracting the things that I want in my life. I realized that I am creating my own reality, and whatever I have inside is projected on the outside. So my intention was to start filling myself, and it was not a conscious decision. Let's put it this way. At the very beginning of my self-development, none of my decisions were conscious, but they still happened. Now, reflecting on it, I realized that was my intention. I just wanted to fill myself with all the positivity and all the good things that I needed in order to move forward and to see what else is out there, because I don't think I grew up knowing what real positivity looks like. There was always limitations and blaming others and having all these beliefs that I am the victim of my life. And then realizing that's not the case, my intention was to break these beliefs, because they were holding me back.
Okay.
Do you have any examples regarding this?
For me, it was really important that the moment that I decided to set up my business, I knew from the beginning that I needed to surround myself with people who could help me enable my dream, because success is never a one-man show. What we could see as a successful person, or what we perceive as a successful person, that person has a team of people, not always formal, around him or her, so they enable that person. And for me, it was really important to get experience by myself, because I went really like a wild child. Maybe I'll just tell them a little bit how I set up my own business. So in 2014, I came down with a massive burnout. I had a corporate career, was feeling very successful, had an amazing lifestyle, until that day that the doctor decided to hit the brakes for me, because I wasn't able to do it myself. And I started to go on sick leave. I was on sick leave for about 6 or 7 months. Nothing really changed in my life. Felt utterly depressed, and I made a drastic decision to leave my current life as I knew it, because I was totally not happy with the person I became. And that's when I started backpacking, and that's when I met Stephanie. more towards the end of my travel. I met you, I think, in April, May.
Something,
Yeah, and I
like that,
returned in June, but that was a year later. Anyway, I returned to Europe eventually. The picture that you saw on the invitation was one of the final nights in Latin America for me before I flew back to Europe to pick up a corporate career again. That's when we said goodbye and had lots of cocktails. I think, well, knowing me, that probably happened.
That's what
no
I probably we
actually,
don't remember.
So anyway, maybe that's a good thing. Being back in Europe, being back in corporates, last year in May, I've quit my job again. And that's when I took a very long stretch because I spent all my savings when I was traveling for a year. I've quit my job with very limited savings, and I had no idea what I was going to do. I knew that I didn't want to go back to corporate, at least not if I didn't really need to survive. And that is when the entrepreneur in me kind of woke up and saw daylight, because there I was with 2 suitcases. That was all I had, almost no money, and trying to find ways to give myself time to figure out what I wanted to do without having to leave to Latin America, although I wanted to. And that is when I started house sitting. And it was actually an idea that Stephanie gave me. So we were on the phone and I said, look, what am I going to do? I have no job. I have no house. Where am I going to go? I'm like, maybe I'll just travel around and visit all my travel buddies in Europe and see what happens. And then Stephanie said, or you could consider house sitting. You know, it's summer, people go on holiday, they have pets. Maybe you could, house sit for free and take care of their pets. And so I did. And I did that for about 5 months to buy myself time to set up a business model, to scale up ideas, to get the necessary, dot on the horizon where I really wanted to go. And in February this year, I made it official and I started my business. And in a very short time, it actually, every day I'm making progress, and every week a miracle happens, and every week something magical happens. And the reason why is because I knew that community was so important. So I surrounded myself with fellow entrepreneurs, but also with my travel buddies that I travel to, like today in Budapest. So they can inspire me, they can give me the energy that I need and expertise, and also get me in touch with people that are not part of my network, but maybe they know. And to just keep that energy flowing and making sure that you stay focused, but also that you have fun along the way. Another thing that we forget in setting up our own business, we can be so focused on the results that we forget to have fun.
That's actually a very good point, because self-development is the perfect example for not focusing on the outcome, because this is not a result-based industry. But even though it's a bit conflicting, it sounds conflicting, I don't necessarily believe in result-based thinking at all. I do have goals, I do have ideas and plans and dreams, but I'm not too focused on the result itself, because as long as I'm enjoying the journey and I love the process, and I know that wherever it takes me is the best place that I need to be. And this is when I feel like that we need to talk about letting go of this duality of right and wrong, because wrong only exists if we believe in it. And imagine a world where there's no such thing as wrong, there's no such thing as failure. Would we be afraid to take the leap of faith if we couldn't fail? And maybe the answer is yes, we would, because there's no way we fail. And in reality, and reality is subjective, we all perceive the world differently. But let's say in a universal reality, if there's no wrong, we would try. And then if I put this in my belief system, if I really believe it in my heart that there's no such thing as wrong, I try, because what's the worst can happen? I learn. And the whole idea of mistake, I think, is a mistake in itself, because we punish mistakes. And I understand there are mistakes that need to be punished, but not all of them, because we learn from mistakes. Yeah. And if we don't allow ourselves or other people to mistakes, how the hell are we going to learn? And then we just create fear of not even trying, because of fear of failure. But there's no such thing as failure if you stand up and try again and again and again. And then maybe it's just not our path. If we keep failing, if it still hurts, then we need to think about it. Is this still my path, or am I just trying so hard to do something because I'm thinking that is the right thing for me? And that's when I call in my heart. Do I feel it in my heart? Is this my path? And it
Mm.
took me so long to fine tune this internal feeling, whether I need to quit or go on, because I always felt like if I quit, I failed. But that's not true. I just stopped investing in something that doesn't give me the value.
Mm.
And then now I'm trying to look for signs that, okay, am I failing this because it's not my path, or because I still need to learn? And yeah, this is really difficult actually, but what's your take on it?
Well, what I teach my client when regards to fear of failure is something that we all experience. And there's two things that are very important that I want to share. First of all, we were raised with the idea that failure is the opposite of success. But when you go through life believing that, you are blocking yourself. So what I've learned in having my own business and teaching entrepreneurs to become unstoppable is that failure is not the opposite of success, but failure is a foundation of success. And the reason why is it is through failure that you discover your strength. You sharpen those skills that you need in order to move forward. So actually, if you have a business without failure, you're not doing a very good job. In a way that you need failure in order to become successful. It's like Thomas Edison had a quote, and he said, "Fail your way to success." But the thing where we dramatize in a way is that we equal failure with suffering. But also, suffering is a choice in a way. So, failure is a foundation for success. You need to fail in order to grow those skill sets to become successful and to grow yourself as an entrepreneur, but and your business or whatever project that you have. That is important. So that's one. And the second thing that I want to share amongst failure is that I lost my line. Anyway, there's two things I wanted to say. Failure as a foundation for success. And that is necessary. Failure, oh yeah, and that is failure is a negative emotion. And we are also raised to not, not allow negative emotions. When we are confronted with negative emotions, our reaction is, okay, how do we fix this as soon as possible? How do we push it away, because it makes us feel uncomfortable? When you're an entrepreneur or a creative, or you're doing something that is stretching your comfort zone, you need to feel uncomfortable, because that is when you learn. And failure is perceived as a negative emotion. So instead of pushing that away, try to have a conversation with it. Try to see or feel or think what it could teach you. What's the lesson? Instead of focusing on the problem, try to focus on the opportunities. And that's what I want to share about failure.
Yeah. That's a very good point. And this is when I always say that we can't build something from nothing. So if we experience the lack of something or the negativity of something, then we can't build from that. Yeah. So what I realized, and it recently happened to me, and this is a lesson that I'm keep learning over and over again from very different angles. So it's adding to the personal development. But then when something bad happens, the bad in quotes, because again, I said, and I don't really believe in bad, but it still causes a natural emotional reaction. And if I feel that something sparked a negativity, then I stop and I reflect and I ask myself, why am I perceiving this negatively? What happened? Is it painful? What is my responsibility in creating that? What is this situation trying to teach me? And at first, it's really difficult, and I need to deal with the stress and anxiety and the negativity, and I clear that out until my brain is so clear that I can focus and think and say, okay, what is it teaching me? Then I try to make a list of all the things that I'm learning from this. And at first it seems impossible, but it's always teaching us. When you look back at something bad that happened, you realize, okay, I learned from it. But at the time when it's happening, it's incredibly difficult, but it's possible. And then I find a way to be grateful. Why? Because it's teaching me, because it's showing me the mirror. It's showing me that maybe I'm not following my path. Maybe I'm making a mistake that I need to learn from. Maybe it's helping me with the self-development. Whatever it is definitely teaching me something. And that in itself is good. So if I experience something good, great. If I experience something bad, it's teaching me. So it's good. So there's no bad. I'm either learning or I'm having fun. And after a while, learning becomes fun, even if it's painful at first. And I'm telling you, it's really difficult to get rid of the negative feeling, but I also want to embrace it. And I use that as a mirror. I use it as, okay, it's telling me something that I didn't pay attention to something, and that's why it happened. And I need to focus on that area in my life that is definitely needing more focus and energy.
Nice. It's funny. It's funny, but it's funny. Yeah, it's an old joke.
Never heard that joke. Never heard that joke before.
It's funny how our approaches are so different, and how you really, you're very from a spiritual angle, and I'm more from the neuroscience rational.
Yeah, but you basically learned so much about the brain, and you're like an expert of the brain. I don't have that knowledge. And then so I feel like that I experience the heart, and I'm trying to find answers from there. But what's the brain approach here? I'm actually curious myself.
On failure, or
no, just what we were talking about, this right and wrong, and then experiencing the bad and learning from it.
Okay, so I think the first thing is that we need to realize is that we control our brain and not the other way around. We think that the brain controls us, but it's actually us who control the brain. More specifically, 70% of our brain is under our control. And this is how it works. Our brain is a togetherness of neural pathways. So the things that you give focus on will become stronger. So let's say that you have a negative thought. By focusing on that negative thought, that network around that negative thought will grow stronger. We cannot delete things out of our brains. What we can do is readjust our focus so that the thing that is so strong, by not giving it attention, by not giving it focus, by not nourishing that pathway, that will fade out. And how we do that? By focusing on things that we want to grow. So very black and white and simplistically put, if you don't want to feel angry or depressed or whatever negative emotion you experience, focus on positive things. And in the beginning, it might be official, and you might find it to do that. But here's the science behind it. The brain is wired to protect you. And it will always guide you back to what it knows, to the familiar. So when you do new things, when you are developing new skills, when you are developing yourself or you're developing some kind of profession, it's completely normal and necessary to feel uncomfortable, because that is your cue that you're actually doing new stuff. Why? Because the brain will try very hard, because it's such an efficient tool, to always bring you back to what it knows. So moving on, or stretching your comfort zone, or developing something new feels uncomfortable. And that is what it is. And it's the same when you are confronted with negative thoughts. If you become aware of those thoughts, that is your place where you can make a decision. Because when you become aware of them, you can take away their powers by choosing different thoughts, or by ignoring those thoughts, or by actively asking, why the hell do you keep popping up in my mind? What are you trying to tell me? Have a conversation with your thoughts, depending on what the feelings and the thoughts around that is. And what I also teach my clients is there's the three musketeers of change. And that is, thoughts will trigger feelings, and feelings will drive your behavior. So if you're not happy with a certain behavior, try to identify the feeling behind it, and then try to identify the thoughts or the worries even that trigger that feeling. So instead of focusing on the behavior, focus on the thoughts that trigger a feeling that drive that behavior. And that is how you manage to change the whole neural pathways in your brain. Very simple. Of course, it's a bit complicated, but we don't have the time to share it.
There's no need. I think as long as we touch base on the most important. And one analogy that I like to use when it comes to this is just imagine the forest where you never walked before, and you start walking the one way constantly, and it creates a path, a really visual path. And that's exactly what we do in our brain when we think the same thing, and it creates these pathways. But if I want to get rid of one, it doesn't happen from 1 second to another. I need to start walking another one, and I'm walking into the unknown, and it's really scary. And maybe I don't even believe that it's going to take me somewhere, but I must have faith. So I start following that path, and then I create another one. But what happens with the first path? Eventually, the weed grows all around it and it disappears, but it takes time. And this is why repetition, when it comes to self-development, what I found very useful is repetition. It's just like with anything, any other thing that we learn. It's we don't start running the marathon, just putting the shoes on and go. We build it up. And then once we are able to run the marathon, we just need to keep that fitness, and keeping that level, it's easier than getting there. And the getting there, it's difficult, but if it wouldn't be difficult, everybody would be doing it and we would all be happy, and no one would be listening to this video because everybody's happy.
True. And on repetition, I can also share some neuro insights or neuro shizzle. Repetition is something that requires energy. So if you want to change behavior or you want to develop something new, your brain needs to work on it. Now, your brain is a very efficient tool, but your brain also consumes 20% of your total energy, meaning it only is 2% of your body mass, but it consumes 20% of your total energy. That's a fifth. And that doesn't include the breathing and the heartbeat and everything and the walking and whatever. So it's pretty intense. The machinery is pretty intense and consumes a lot of power. So that is why the brain is confronted to become very efficient. So what does it do? As soon as the brain picks up a certain behavior or a thought or something that is repeated, it will submerge it to the subconscious, so to speak. So that means that you don't need your consciousness anymore, because that requires too much energy.
Makes
so
sense.
When you want to change a behavior, in the beginning, it is really hard. And think about something that you wanted to do. For instance, you want to go running. You want to become, fit again. You want to stay in shape, or you want to change your diet, or you want to quit smoking, or you want to change something. Try to imagine a situation where you had it. In the beginning, it's hard. In the beginning, you really have to fight yourself in a way. But that is because your brain is going to be a little bit, rebellious, because it knows that it's going to consume a lot of energy, and it always will take you away from pain as a thing and towards pleasure. So it's very important that you become aware of that, and just keep going. As Fanny said, faith, believing in it is really powerful in that way, because then it will train your brain. And once your brain is trained and you have repeated a certain behavior or a certain thought long enough, it's not going to take that much effort again. And there's an analogy that I think Simon Sinek used in one of his talks. If you go to the gym, right? You go to the gym and you start your exercises. You're not going to stand in front of the mirror every time that you've done with your exercises to then conclude, oh, I'm not there yet, I'm going to quit because I don't have the result yet. No, you go to the gym and you keep going because you believe that after a certain amount of time, you will have the result that you are working for. And it's the same with every behavior that you do, or every action that you want to become successful in.
I feel like one thing that I can completely relate to here is when I'm learning a new language, it's insanely tiring. And I do remember how it feels like when I'm sitting for an hour over this book and I'm trying to consume information and my brain is doing its best to remember. And I do get exhausted, of course, because I'm using a lot of brain power. And that's why we say, okay, my brain is fried. Why is it fried? Because it's consuming a lot of information. It's using so much power. But that's essentially what self-development does too. It's exactly the same. It's learning new things. But it's not just something that happens in the brain, but it happens in the soul, in the subconscious, in the heart, because we are changing the core system of limiting beliefs, because we grow up with all these I'm too young for this, I'm too old for this, I don't have enough money for this, I can't, I'm not in the position. And then there's always these excuses because they seem logical. And this is when the brain comes in, and then what Ines was talking about is trying to protect us from the unknown, because the unknown is scary. Why is it scary? Because we don't know what's going to happen. But this is when the belief comes in. It doesn't matter what happens because I'm not result focused. Whatever happens is the best thing that can happen to me. But pushing through that and completely rewiring the belief system is insanely hard work. And it all starts with very tiny steps, just like not telling myself that I can't. I always, what I do with my clients is when they talk and I pick something, a limiting belief, I ask them to rephrase that. And then they laugh. For example, I can't do that because I can't go traveling because I have a family. Let's give this example. And I was like, okay, try to rephrase that. Try to come up with different ideas of how you can go traveling, but still have a family. And then it's like, no, it's just, I can't. And then I force them to think, and then they do come up eventually with some ideas, and they all seem impossible, and they start giggling. It's like, haha, yeah, but that would never happen. It's like, yeah, not with that attitude for sure. But it's the attitude to believe that it could become true, and I can always find a solution. Even if I don't see it right now, I know that there's a solution somewhere in the future, and I can create it. And this comes from a belief. This comes from a limitless belief. And to actually truly believe that, not just say it, because saying it is one thing, feel it in the heart is another thing. But I feel like if I don't say it, I'm never going to believe in it. And this is why I'm keep repeating to myself. And yeah, at first maybe it sounds like a lie, because it is, because I don't believe in it with my heart. But I'm keep lying to myself because I have to. I want to believe in it because I know it's going to benefit not just me, but my business, my friends, my environment. Everybody benefits from me being a better person, because then I can share this energy, or I can share my thoughts and feelings with people. So I know that whatever I do for me, it actually benefits everyone else. So even if I can't find internal motivation, I know that I do this for others. And I'm keep repeating it. And I don't care if I'm lying, because we lie to us every time. We lie to us all the time. Even when we say, oh, I'm not good enough, that's a lie. Of course you're good enough. You're just not believing yourself. And if you're not believing yourself, don't expect anyone else to believe in you. And that's why I feel everything comes from inside. If I believe in it, everybody's going to believe in it eventually. Maybe they take time, but I am the first step. I need to have that core belief inside of me that I'm unstoppable, I'm capable, I'm limitless, and I have the power to create my reality.
Yeah. And I want to touch on that from a brain perspective, because your brain has no direct access to reality. So your perception of reality is a mere internalization of stimuli, of signals that your senses picked up, and that has gone through a whole process in your brain, patterns, colors, tastes, smell, whatever, and then attached with memory and experience that you have to give you reality. And the second thing is that the brain does not know the difference between what's real and what's imaginary because of that. So whatever you give your focus to, whatever you give energy to, for the brain, it's as real as it gets, because it has no direct access to reality. It is just a mere internalization of what has come in our system through our senses. So that's very important. And in regards to beliefs and self-image, to be specific, here's another golden nugget that I want to drop here, is that we are wired as humans that everything that we do or don't do has to be consistent with how we see ourselves. It's perfectly normal when you start your own business to feel very uncomfortable, or when you start a new project, or when for creators, for instance, when they need to come out, you have written a book, but you're afraid to publish it, for instance. It's perfectly normal that you feel uncomfortable and scared. That is when you learn to train those skill sets and tackle those limited beliefs that are holding you back, so you can move forward. And secondly, if you don't see it, if you cannot see yourself as being a successful author or as running a successful business and have the necessary self-compassion to do so, it ain't gonna work, because that is not what the brain is meant to be. The brain is there to protect you. So everything that you attach to pain, the brain will find a way to hold you back. Unless you find a way through self-image, through visualization, through really accepting that you want to go there, then your brain will attach pleasure to that and will not give you such a hard time to move forward. And you will actually enjoy it and feel excited instead of shitting your pants. Excuse my French.
But that's a good point, and this is why I think it's don't want to use this phrase, but I'm gonna have to. It's easy to trick the brain.
Of course.
Because it doesn't know what's reality. And just imagine when we believed in Santa. I saw Santa. I did.
No.
And because I believed in it, I wanted to see Santa, and I did. And not in a shopping mall, but
Yeah.
I have this clear, image in front of me that I think I saw Santa.
Yeah.
Why? Because I wanted to see him so bad. I really wanted to, and I believed in it. And I, even with an adult brain, it happened to me time and time again when I believed in something so, so, so deeply, and it happened to be there. It wasn't there. It was all the projection of my brain, but to me it was real. And this is why I also think that reality, like maybe there's a universal reality, but we all live in our own realities. And if I have my own, and I possess the power to create whatever I like, then I'm gonna lie my way through my limiting beliefs until it becomes core. Why? Because I can do it. Everybody else can do it to me. Let me give you an example. I was in a, let's say, bad relationship for some years, and
we've all had that phase.
Yeah, I think we need to go through this experience, of course. And he said some things that he kept repeating, and it was putting me down. And I was listening to this for years and years, and I did believe in it, that I'm just not pretty enough, I'm not I don't know, successful enough, I'm not capable enough, I'm just not enough. Because he kept telling me, and what did I do? I believed him, because that's a person that I love and trust, so he must be right. And I realized later that I let him create my self-image. So I gave all that power away. And I gave the responsibility to someone else to create my image. And that was a very dangerous game to play, because it really put me down. But once I was down, I realized, okay, there's no lower than this. So there's only one direction, going up. And then I started going up when I felt that when I'm having a different conversation with myself, a more positive one, it actually has an effect. And if someone could destroy my self-image because he was repeating the same thing, then I can build my self-image by repeating the same things. But I just had to make sure that it's positive. And eventually they did become the core me. And I wasn't questioning those beliefs anymore, because I created them and I'm holding on to them dearly. But again, and I feel like that we have to talk about this, that expectation is not to be perfect. Just because I already been there, it doesn't mean I can't lose that focus. And I experience it time and time again, that I put energy and focus into one area of development, and it's working, and I'm moving forward, and it's amazing. But because I'm focusing there, I'm forgetting this. And then suddenly I feel that I'm lacking something here. So I shift my focus back there, and I'm trying to put the positivity there to increase it. But then I'm shifting away from that area and whatever. So it's a constant circle, and I'm being constantly reminded of the areas where I need focus because I lost something there. So I don't have this expectation that just because I reach something once, I can't lose it, because then I put myself up to failure. If I have that expectation, anything short of that, it's a failure. And I don't want to experience failure like that. So no, I give myself that wiggle room, that I do the best I can, and I put the effort in it as much as I can. But if I like fall flat on my face, then I know I can stand up, but I still fell. And if I think, oh God, this shouldn't have happened, I feel like that's the wrong approach for me, because it doesn't really teach me anything. It punishes me. It punishes me for being a human and making a mistake. That's actually a good thing. And that's not the way I want to experience my self-development. So I'm trying to take failure and all this negativity out. And if I fall, even though I already learned that lesson, so what? I stand up again, and it makes me even stronger because now I learned that lesson twice. So it just makes me a better person, I guess.
Yeah, because you learn.
And that's the whole idea, right? We are here to learn. We are here to develop. We are not here to be perfect. And perfection
is boring.
Perfection is boring, and perfection is if I'm perfect and if I know everything, who am I going to learn from? What am I going to learn? And then how could I be there on my own when everybody else around me is developing and struggling? I'll be lonely. And no, I enjoy this work. I enjoy the process because it's not painful. It's not painful to fall because I love the process of climbing. And yeah, I love the success of being able to climb on top of that mountain. But eventually there's another mountain and another one and another one. Why? Because I'm completing the challenges. And then if I feel like, oh no, something again and again, it should come because it's about development. And then once I climb the mountain, there's another one and I want to see what's on top. And it's all about exploration and really just enjoying the journey. Whatever happens, whatever challenge we face it, and that's it. And this is why we come back to the support group when it becomes really difficult, because it does become difficult. How many times have I called you crying that I can't take it anymore?
Not so many.
Okay, maybe not so many, but I did.
You did.
I did. And
you
how low?
And, that was nice.
And how low was I?
Even though,
I'm a life coach, I'm supposed to know it all. No, I'm also a person who's evolving and developing. And the reason why I like to share my experience, it's because it's a learning. I'm sharing a lesson that I learned, and I'm hoping to be a mirror and people recognize themselves in my stories, and it gives them some guidance or awareness that, oh my God, I never thought about it, but I have the same problem. And then once we have that awareness, then we have the need to change that if we feel uncomfortable in it. Sometimes all it takes is just being aware. If I'm not aware of what's wrong, how the hell could I improve, right? That's step number one. And this is why I used to feel weird. I was like, oh, I'm too young to be a life coach. Why do I know about life? I'm a 20-something and I'm not perfect. I have my problems. And I realized I don't need to be perfect and I don't need to have the age. It's all about the process, and then having not a direct recipe to everyone, but a direction for everyone, and knowing how to help someone to find their own answers. I don't need to know their answer. That there's no recipe. But I feel like we are all learning from each other. They're teaching me too. I learn from my clients as much as they learn from me. So this is exchange of values and never stop learning. And I feel like that if I'm a step ahead of someone, I can always teach something. If someone is a step ahead of me, they can always teach something. But it doesn't mean that they are there. It doesn't mean they are perfect. It just means they are a step ahead and they can constantly pull me into the right direction. And that's what I feel like support is about, because we all have our personal problems and challenges. I wouldn't even call it problem, challenges that we face. But this is why we have the group, in order to call each other when we need some support and guidance, and just sometimes shifting the focus back to an area.
And the way that I look at it, to just briefly touch upon perfectionism, coming back to self-image and the dynamic that everything you do or don't do has to do with how you see yourself, or if you see yourself doing it or not doing it. The same as with perfectionism. Perfectionism are just standards that you set yourself. They're beliefs driven by a certain fear. Because perfectionism actually is a belief that you cannot do certain things because your focus is on the lack of. You're not focused on the gains of the activity that you do. You're too much focused on what is not there. And then you feel bad. And then in many cases, and we've all been there, that feeling bad for you is your emergency brake, and then you decide to stop.
Very good point. Actually, perfectionism, I feel like it's the most static and limiting thing that we can expect from ourselves. There is no room to be a human. Like, even I don't even think a machine can do it. Eventually machines break too. There's no perfect. And chasing that is an impossible standard and definitely sets us up to failure. And I actually heard that from some of my clients, that what they struggle with is that some mistakes that are made by others, they're a lot more accepting towards that and more forgiving. But if they do the exact same mistake, they punish themselves much harsher. So I'm thinking there's a conflict there. So if you have that expectation towards others and you don't have the same, there's a big conflict. There's like a belief misunderstanding. I don't know how to phrase it, but if I expect something from myself, shouldn't I expect the same from others? Or I don't even know if I'm explaining myself right, because in the area of unconditional love, let's approach it from this perspective. There are no expectations, and as scary as it sounds, I feel like that if there are no expectations, anything that happens, I can be grateful for. And I'm actually trying that out every day, that whatever I receive is something that serves me. It's giving me either a great life lesson or giving me pleasure. But either way, I win. And if I have expectations, expectations towards others or myself, what are the chances that I can actually meet them? Because they are so static. And if someone can't meet exactly those, then again, I'm setting myself up to fail, and I'm setting them up to fail as well. So I don't even give them a chance to succeed because I have so many expectations, especially when it comes to romantic relationships. And I think this is exactly where everybody can connect, that we expect our partner to be like this, act like that, say these, read our minds, behave like that. And no, 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 no. I don't want to make that, let's say, mistake again, because I'm not giving that person a chance to be himself with me, because I'm expecting him to be someone else, someone that in my ideal world exists. But what if I just let him be, and whatever he can give me is what I am grateful for? Then there's no failure, right? In theory. But in practice, of course, that's not how it works at the moment. We always have some expectations, but at least I feel like that, theoretically speaking, it's a good way to go.
Well, it's not a bad thing. So there's standards that you set for yourself, and it's good because it means that you can have a focus. And having a focus is important to not feel overwhelmed, right? So everything is about intention. However, speaking of, I'm not a relationship therapist or expert at all, but then as you touched upon the romantic relations and expectations, I think when somebody, your partner, does something and it's not, in line with their expectations, there's two things that you could do or ask yourself: is this affecting my own values? Is this so important to me, and is this so important that I cannot accept it? Or could it be something that you learned from, which is something that is ongoing? We as humans are a constant work in progress. We're never finished. And having expectations, having standards is good to keep your focus, but also know that you control them and not the other way around. So you're the one who creates a framework, and you can always change the framework. All it takes is your awareness and a decision that you make.
You actually touched on a really good point, and I'm thinking, when there's an argument, because and I don't know if it's a woman thing, but we feel that something was attacked, like the person, when they make a mistake or they say something, they behave in a way, it's against us. And that comes from a very negative place. That comes from an expectation that that person's intention is bad, that person is trying to hurt me. But I changed that belief. And now I believe, and I actually do believe in it, I'm not just saying it, that everything that happens comes from a good intention. So if I perceive it wrongly or negatively, maybe I'm actually perceiving it wrong. So I communicate, like, is this how you meant it? What's behind your intention? Because I'm feeling hurt and I just want to make sure that you didn't try to intentionally hurt me. Maybe I misunderstood something. And it's a great mirror, because if I feel that someone's constantly attacking me, then maybe I perceive that person wrong. And that's a mirror that is reflecting my internal emotional state. So if I want to be attacked, if I want to feel hurt, I will always find the way to feel hurt. And I will twist and turn the words and actions until I do feel hurt, and I can blame that person. And that is just basically projecting my lack of something or negativity on that person. And I'm blaming them for me having a problem with my internal emotional state. But I'm trying to fill all these empty spaces with positivity and turning the negative around and making everything positive. And I believe that person always has good intentions. So if if I'm hurt, then I know that it might be because it was intentional, but I still ask, because I'm not trying to twist and turn until I actually get a communication result from our interaction. What do you think, Ines?
I am not an expert on this topic.
Right.
I only know the brain. But I was thinking, because time-wise, we are almost at the end.
Yeah.
If there might be questions from the other side that we haven't touched upon, or topics that you would like to have a view on or an inspiration on, then do drop them in the chat box now, because we're going to go offline in a few minutes, I guess.
Yeah, that's true, because we are still trying to relax and enjoy our time together, having some quality girl time, because we don't see each other often.
That's what happens when you move to the other side of the world.
Yeah, but at the same time, I do feel like that the more we travel, the smaller the world gets.
True.
And we perceive time and space completely different now.
True.
And I used to think it takes me an hour to get from A to B. My God, such a long time.
Yeah.
Oh no, after 26 hours on a bus in Peru, an hour is not long.
We have another question. Okay, what does he say? How can you get rid of, but rid of what?
Rid of what?
We're going to wait for his answer. Okay.
Yeah, but anyway, in the meantime, I feel like we still live in different countries, but I feel so close.
True.
Because it takes me 2 hours to fly there, not even that.
Yeah.
So it doesn't feel like it's far away.
Even if it's 16 hours, it's still okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was one of the big learnings from traveling, is to perceive time and space differently, and not feel like, oh my God, I'm on the other side of the planet. But come on, it only takes a few hours to go and see each other.
I think that you make it work for you. That is, for me, that was my biggest shift. I was so very corporate, like slave to my calendar. And I knew that I had to be in the office at that time. And then I had meetings. And then everything was planned. Even my social life was very much planned. And then going on the road and not having a cell phone, because you don't have data. So there's no use of having a phone. And just completely giving into time and space in a completely different way. It was very challenging coming back. But yeah, I think that I found kind of a balanced way of organizing my life and not being a slave to my calendar anymore, but actually controlling my calendar and having enough space for what I want to do instead of other things dictating me.
Yeah.
And that's been the biggest shift. And the same goes with distance. There's no problem. I mean, I flew to Uganda for a weekend. I fly back and forth.
Borderline crazy, right?
To have dinner or to have lunch or brunch.
So we have the question: how can you get rid of the perfection belief?
Ooh, that's a really good one. How can you get rid of the perfectionist belief? I think that, first of all, by understanding perfectionism. So here's the thing: if you want to change something, you need to understand the dynamics. So perfectionism is just a set of beliefs that you have. It is your decision to listen to those beliefs. If you want to get rid of perfectionism, then try to really specify and identify those beliefs, and then challenge yourself in asking if they serve you or not. If they don't serve you anymore, or you can find a counter belief that makes you feel a little bit better, that's a really good way to go. Now, perfectionism is not all bad, okay? As I said before, Perfectionism is about standards, is about beliefs, and we need them as well because they guide us as well. They give us structure, they give us a focus, and that will protect us from feeling overwhelmed. However, if they are not serving you, then change them.
Actually, my approach is I follow a business rule called 80-20. So I do try always to live up to my expectations towards myself, but there's always a situation when I can't, or unintentionally I make a mistake, let's say, or whatever, I fall out of my character. I get tired. Anything could happen. There's always that 20% where I give myself the room to make a mistake, because 80% of the time it's, let's say, relatively easy to follow that belief. But 20% of the time it's very challenging and sometimes even impossible, because I have to let it go. And then what I do is I don't punish myself, because it was never an expectation to be 100% perfect. But it takes a while to get there, because of course we all want to do everything right. But what's right for us is learning. So if I love the idea of making a mistake and learning from it and improving myself, then I completely change my relationship towards something that I'm afraid of. And how can I get rid of a fear? By facing it and making it. And eventually I realized that there was nothing to be afraid of. And it doesn't mean that no one tries to punish me for my mistakes. They do. They do, because society is really harsh, and sometimes the environment is harsh. They try to tell me that I've done something wrong. This is when I really need to use that 80%, that no, this is not wrong. I'm just improving. I'm on this path. This is a journey and I want to enjoy it. And I don't want anyone to make me feel bad for being a human and improving and learning, because I know, and this is where this belief comes in, when I know that all the intentions are good. So whenever I get a judgment, I know it comes from a good intention, because they are trying to help me improve. Even if it's not true, I have to believe in it if I don't want to be hurt. But I also do the same for myself, that whatever I did and had a bad outcome, it came from the right place. It came from a good intention, and I never meant to hurt anyone. But if I do, I try to communicate that. So basically, it's just the 80-20 rule. I give myself wiggle room, and it takes time, but it does. Like, as we said, it takes time to rewire the brain, to have this core belief. And it takes a small step, and just stop telling myself that I have to be perfect.
And also, it's important when you make plans and you go somewhere with a goal, to not just be focused on the goal, but also give your attention to the progress, because that is where the fun is.
I completely agree. It is not always about the destination, but the journey. And I think we are running out of time now.
Yes, we are.
So we're gonna go and relax and enjoy the hotel that we have right now. Oh, sweet.
So.
Yeah. So now it's time for us to relax. And thank
Have
you
wine.
guys. Thank you guys for tuning in. And I hope you enjoyed and you learned something new. And if you have any questions left, then just feel free to contact us through Facebook. You can either Ines or you can contact me, and
Yes,
we're here to help. Anyway, have a nice evening.
Thank you, and hope to see you soon.
Yep. Okay. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Not bad.
I liked it. We actually had a lot of